y'all feel like your opinion that y'all feel like it's a bad idea. I hope you do. Our Kosciusko school district and our county school district, our public school districts, have been a major part of our community and have been great schools for a long time. We used to say when I was sitting over there, as the schools go, so goes the community. When we start to see our public schools go downhill, we're going to see a lot of changes in our community too, and I hope that y'all believe that. You know, what school choice, what they're proposing doing, however they try to say it, is the ultimate goal will be to take money from our public schools and give to other schools, whether that be another public school somewhere or a private school. The end result is going to be that our public schools will have less funding, which means they'll have less for programming, less for teachers, not to mention the downward spiral that will begin to happen when private schools start to draft our best and our brightest, our best athletes. You know, Caden Wade, if he can go to whatever private school for free, basically, he's probably going to choose that over Kosciusko. Just not to single him out. I just know he's a good football player. We're going to see a lot of that, and if the legislature does go through this, it's going to be detrimental to our schools and our community. To this board, I mean, y'all are in charge of appointing what, half or 2/3 of our Kosciusko school board. I hope that y'all understand that a law that, if the legislature passes it, is going to be very detrimental to our public schools. I hope y'all will consider this. I hope that it's going to make or break a law, but I do think that it will send a message to large quantities and other organizations around the state, sending this type of message to our legislators. Hopefully we will sway enough to vote against this law and it will not pass. That's all.
If I just going to follow up and make a couple of additional remarks. This time in 1982, over 50 years ago, Governor Winter was working at that time against the great odds to move the legislature towards installing public education, public kindergartens in schools. It was about this time of the year. My wife was in that office doing correspondence for Governor Winter during that time, so she saw firsthand the mountain they had to climb. We now have public kindergartens in our school district, and that makes a huge difference for the economic development in this community. And a lot of it was for because Governor Winter had the courage, and he was getting a lot of pushback from legislators to do it. Then comes pre-K in this school, which was encouraged by Governor Winter. He encouraged our own local foundation because the earlier you can begin to really educate that child, and the earlier they can read, the better chance they got of not dropping out. So we, along with the Jim Barksdale Collaborative, along with the KFEE, and this Michelle Mowell, have worked diligently to get that thing started, along with Michael Cormack, who's the Deputy Superintendent of JPS Schools. And now we've got a pre-K program, and it goes all the way down to age 3. Now, in my opinion, I've been here a long time, and I've taken care of a lot of people from a health standpoint, but I think that's the best thing that I could have ever been involved in as far as helping the health of our population and our people. In fact, education is known to be the best determinant of health outcomes across the population. So we're about to get into holiday season. Thanksgiving, Christmas is going to be on us. y'all gonna have decisions to make. The legislature is deciding what mood it's in to even take this thing up. And I love Jason White and what he's done. He's done a lot of good things for this community, but I respectfully disagree with his position on this. And I would also say that y'all's job is to take care of business in this town. Not about anybody else's community, not about anybody else's town. You need to be the dog guarding the bone for this town. And the bone is public education in this community, because without public education, this community just watch the tumbleweed start rolling down the street. This is and I'm in the health sector, I'm saying the public education system in this community is the best thing we got going on. We got good health, but public education is extremely important. Again, nothing against Mr. White. I know he has his own opinions about this, and he's the Speaker of the House, and you know, there's ideas about this. Now, one of the things y'all need to be familiar with is Mr. Hoseman is okay with public-to-public movement of funds. Okay? One public school, for example, if it were in Holmes County, they could come into a Tyler County. He's okay with that. If y'all saw Mississippi Today this morning, he's okay with that. Mr. White is for a much broader application, including movement of funds that would go for our children in this community back to the private school sector. And the other thing I want y'all to realize is that the state has an allotment per child. I don't know what it is, 7 or 8, 9,000.
It is.
I'm sorry?
It is.
And so that amount of money has to take care of a child with disability. It's got to take care of all kinds of things that the private school sector does not have to take care of. And yet they're going to give the same amount of money to a child that's going to go to a private school as they would to public schools. Okay? And the other thing y'all need to understand is that the private school community says we will take this money, but we don't want any strings attached. Now you know what the strings are. The strings are the standards that this school district has to adhere to. And some of that translates into teachers that don't like to teach to the test. But if the standards go away, then I firmly believe you're going to see a decline in ACT scores, you're going to see a decline in SAT scores. You can't just throw it all on the woodpile because you don't agree with the quote-unquote strings. So there is some thought that if this happens, the private schools would not have to adhere to the same standards, and they wouldn't have the quote-unquote strings. They can just take the money and do it. They can take that money and they can put it on whatever they want to. They can put it on athletic facilities. Y'all know who paid for the turf and the new developments out here? It was the property taxes generated in this community. And the state does not provide any help with facilities on an ongoing regular basis. We got some help, thanks to Mr. White, for this up here because we were able to get money coming through the foundation for that. But it's on a regular basis, it's on this community to provide adequate buildings that don't leak and that don't. And the other thing is, y'all, the final thing I'm gonna say, I'm gonna shut up. We ain't got just a lot of room in our school system. And if you start allowing students from other counties or whatever to come in here, you know, who's gonna pay for additional facilities? Are we ready to have a bond issue to build a new school? Because It may take that. It may take, if we started having freedom of movement, and our school board could no longer have any say-so about who comes to this community, this school, because right now they do, then you're gonna see crowding in the schools with no ability or no will by the state to help us with accommodating those students from a facilities standpoint. I know y'all don't have a specific bill before you, I know you don't, but Oxford, Florence, Madison, Clinton is where this original resolution came from, and I could name probably another 5 communities have sent a message to the legislature,
Yes.
do not mess with our school system. And the other thing is, Clinton's interested in this because they realize if they start losing students, or if their school is damaged because of this, then their property tax is gonna go down. I mean, the value of their property is gonna go, property values is what I meant to say, is gonna go down. So from a property value standpoint and ability to hold up your tax base, it just doesn't make any sense for y'all to be relaxed, and y'all need to be on top of it. I don't know if you wanna make a decision tonight, but your job is for Kosciusko, not for any other community, not for any other school in any other county. It is for us and for our children in this community.
And I'll add one more thing, it's called, school choice. We already have school choice. It's just, you can only choose if you're financially well enough to choose. And if you think for a minute that the private schools are gonna start letting in people who currently can't choose, can't afford to choose, because there's $7,000 coming with them, it's not gonna happen. Not unless they're that great athlete or they're super special in some other way. The general public's not gonna have that choice. But currently, if you have the means and you wanna go to another school, you can. So all this does is just take money from our public schools.
Our local board, school board, has put a stake in the ground as far as students leaving our district and going to another district, or going to, for example, Ethel. Freedom of movement, migration. They said that is hurting our schools, so they're stopping it. They're not allowing that to happen. The children that are already out there, they're allowing them to be grandfathered. If Holmes County wants to send a child here, then they gotta bring their money with them, and they gotta be released by Holmes County and accepted in Kosciusko. And so there's less of that happening simply because we just don't have the space. And, I mean, I realize how important the education is to this community, so I'd be all about it. Bond issue if y'all want to build a new physical plant. But right now, I don't see that in the cards. And we gotta protect what we got, because I think we got, it's got its warts and its flaws and its problems, but it's a good school system. And we need to hold on to it, protect it, and I hope y'all will.
I just have a question. So the main thing behind this is follow the money. You know what I'm saying, like, cause the private school been going on for years and years. But do y'all have an idea why they wanted to do it at this time?
I think this has been developing for years and years, and I think they thought they had the votes, and they still probably think they have the votes. Although I will tell you that these municipalities that I've mentioned, they're in a bad mood about this. Some of those communities do not want this. They think it's gonna hurt them. And I think there's a lesson, hopefully, for y'all to look at those communities and say, well, if they don't like this, then maybe we ought to really stop and think about it. But, I think it's gonna be a sucker punch. I think it'll be a sucker punch to this community if this happens. And I don't think that's the intention of people that are in favor of it, but I don't think that some of them are motivated. I've had 3 children that have gone through this system. I'm thankful for this system. I'm thankful for the community. I got 2 kids that are in private schools now, and I give them hell about it. I've got one that's in a public school, and they love it. They're in Cleveland. But I think they've all done well, and you know why? Because of the people in this community and our school system. And you know what? They can get along with anybody. And to me, you know, somebody said, don't let the school get in the way of a good education. They've learned a lot from the friendships they've made in this community across across the whole racial front. And made great lasting friendships and, you know. So.
I've talked to a couple of representatives too, and the feel I get from them is exactly what you're saying too. They're 100% behind public education too. I mean, I feel like most everybody on this board is proponent of keeping our community whole. The last thing we need to do is be losing students or taking on so many, just like you said, that we don't have facilities, because if you look at our schools are pretty full as it is. In a lot of classrooms, and, you know, some are not, but, for the majority, a lot is, and, you know, I do a lot with kids. I got a huge youth council. I got 81 kids in my youth council this year, and I do a lot of interactions with them, and, I mean, like I say, these are great kids, great school system. I agree with you. That's the last thing we need to do is do anything that's gonna hurt our community.
But the timing of this, and y'all move at your pace that you feel comfortable with, but the timing of this is that, just remember, we're coming up on Thanksgiving and Christmas, and this is gonna get rolled up in all that, and then y'all's, in my opinion, the best thing y'all can do for the community is come out and say, let the legislature know your position on this. And I think the sooner y'all can, it's late, because like Oxford and Clinton, they did this 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago. So we're kind of late in the game now. So.
Yeah, from what I understand, this will probably be one of the first things on the agenda when they come to the session.
Right, right.
But all they're asking for is 23 people out of Taylor County to vote on this. I can't even get 23 people. When it comes up from legislation on my computer for us to vote for this, nobody votes for it. So, just one in a Taylor County, and that's me. Where's everybody else? You know, it comes up all the time.
All right, well, we'll discuss, because I know each of you probably spoken to Dr. Alford about this. You know, if you Dr. Alford, I say it's something that would need some action pretty quick. If y'all wanted to mull on it, I think we would need to take it up and at least make some type of vote on it by the next board meeting at the last.
Y'all ready to vote on it now?
You know, the issue that I have is not saying, you know, 'cause I spent 20 years in school here, and I'm all for this school and so forth. The issue I have is making decisions and saying things about, you know, for example, the Mississippi Constitution prevents state funds to go into private schools.
But the state legislature has already violated that once before.
Well, I'm just saying that it's against the Constitution.
I'm just making a point.
the Constitution, and the courts ruled in 2023, it was unconstitutional in Jackson.
Yeah, they still
So-
$1 million.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
Sure did.
We wanna make a decision to do something when, you know, it's already out there that you can't do that. And making assumptions about what they're going to do, because we don't know what they're gonna do. They don't know what they're gonna do. They hadn't, you know, they got committees meeting this week about trying to decide what to do. You know, I'm for that too. You know, and the other issue is, you know, I have attorneys from private schools say they're not taking any money. Because if they take their money, then they'll come in and tell them they can't credit for a student.
What they've said is we're not taking the money if there are strings attached, and strings are standards.
Well, and the Department of Education,
Strings attached, and strings are standards.
well, and the Department of Education, standards for Mississippi. They're no longer Mississippi history test. So, and 20 years, yes, for some reason, that way. So, no, that's what I'm saying, we're gonna say, don't do it. I prefer to say, here's what our position is, we'd like you to do, rather than.
Well, I mean, we don't have nobody in this room has any authority over what they can do. We can jolly well let them know what the mood is.
Right.
I agree.
You know, I mean, again, I go back to the fact that this is y'all's school. And, we're not talking about the private schools here or what they're gonna do. We do know that it's gonna, you know, it is kind of, it kind of sticks in my craw a little bit that the state doesn't do anything or has to do anything for facilities. It's all on us, it's all on this community, it's all on the property taxes that this community can generate. And, so when it comes down to, you know, not knowing what they're gonna do, Lieutenant Governor Hoseman has said that it's constitutionally not correct to allow public funds to go to private schools. He said that is against the state constitution. He said that. But on the House side, they haven't really acknowledged that. My position is, regardless of whether it's public, or public tax dollars to private schools, y'all ought to be able to say, we're opposed to either one of those.
Well, and you know, that's the same thing that basically we've been saying, or the school board, we've been saying for the last couple of years. Is students that are coming from outside of this community that's not paying anything. It's kind of the same thing, they're having an influx of students, there's no tax money that is coming to help fund their education. So it's kind of the same thing on the reverse side that.
James, Mr. Culpepper, to your, you know, to your point though, you know, the whole idea of the fact that we don't know what they're gonna do, or what bill they're gonna come up with. There's a good chance they're gonna come up with something. You know, and that's kind of what I want y'all to at least communicate that this is just, on the whole, it's not a good idea for our schools and our educational system. And that's the system y'all are concerned with.
Steph, one question, and we're gonna forget about the money for just a minute, of who's getting the money and what. We have lost a lot of students to Ethel. We've lost a lot of students to private schools. Do y'all have any knowledge of why we're losing those students? not counting that the money's going with them. We don't forget about that, but there's gotta be a problem why we're losing those students out of our school.
Tell you, right, somewhere.
Well, I think, do y'all have, I'm sure you have conversations with our school, not much. I mean, just
I mean, I'm just
with great
asking,
respect,
because I know there's got to be some problems.
with great respect, I mean, I think, I understand your concern.
I'm very concerned.
And
I had a son that.
I think there ought to be, I think y'all ought to be mixing it up with the school board.
I had a son
That's what it
that-
That's not me, that's y'all.
I had a son went all the way through public school. I got 3 grandsons in Brandon Public School now. I'm from public school. But I just know there got to be a problem, the reason we're losing so many students. If we wasn't, we wouldn't be having this conversation about why we're losing money. So we're losing students.
No, we're not losing money, we're about to lose some money.
Right.
And that ain't gonna help
Federal government.
your concern. And I think your concern is a dead-gum legitimate concern. And I think there needs to be some questions asked. I don't have all the answers to that. I've got some opinions, which I think it'd be reckless of me to say anything about that right now. But I think it's had to do with some of the past that we have not yet recovered from.
And just add on a little bit, I think we all would agree that our local school board should be the one to set the policies about who comes and who goes and so forth. And, without being, we're saying about the students, without saying that, you can't go from a public school to a public school. But use Alford, for example, if they have a special needs kid up there that they don't have the services for, and we do, would we want the kid to come here? But if the boards are, just get locked in, well, no, that's another public school, we're not gonna do it, then we're not looking at the best interest of the kids. And,
But your point is, that you made about testing and the fact that we're no longer gonna test for Mississippi history and that sort of thing. That's it's my understanding that if that becomes a major impediment, the quote-unquote requirements, standards, then there's some consideration that's being lent to stripping away the standards in public schools so that that's no longer an issue for the private schools. And I don't, I've got a problem, I've always complained about teachers teaching to the quote-unquote test. I've got problems with that. But if you strip away all the standards, then what have you got? You've gotta have some standards. We got kids here in this town that are doing dadgum good on the ACT test relative to others. So they're doing some things right, they're doing a lot of stuff right. They're up against a lot of odds here. If you start stripping away all the standards, in a private school setting, you might be able to muscle good teachers out, muscle this out, muscle that. In the public school world, I just don't think that, I spent last weekend with Kenny Townsend. And y'all may know Kenny Townsend is our only Rhodes Scholar that this community has ever generated. And Kenny's feeling was that this is potential hazard to public education in the state. Somehow Kenny managed to eke out a pretty good education in this community. And, I will also say this, Kenny named his first son William after William Winter, who was a champion for public education. So anyway, we've said enough.
But I can say this though, one of my main objectives to private school, even if it be a pass, they got the choice to pick who they want to come to that private school. And that's a problem with me.
Yes, sir.
Well, this board has an obligation to
the public. And we would be kind of crazy to go against what the public think it ought to be done. You all hold us accountable, but then too, we hold you accountable for bringing it to us, or to bring the correct information. And if we make a decision, it's gonna be based on what's best for the state. And I'm always for what's best for the student, always.
So somewhere around 80 to 90% of kids in this state are educated in the public education system. So if you wanted to apply that same kind of number to this community, that's what we're talking about. We're trying to protect the educational levels. And I say, protect what we've got, and then we got some stuff, we got some further discussions we want to have with why we're seeing an exodus, to your point, Errol. And I think that's a legitimate question. But that's not what this resolution is about.
But before we get to answering questions, we got to still vote right as to how we stand. But before we get to answering questions, we got to still vote right as to how we stand. I think everybody, and that's, we have got to get together and do it, not slow matter, but really get down to the brass tacks to say, this is how the Board of Aldermen thinks.
Yeah, I wonder how many of y'all have talked in your campaigns about the importance of education in this town.
Right.
But it's a big importance. Okay? I've always believed, so the education, so the city. If you want to have a sorry city, have a sorry education system.
All right, that being said, board, which y'all's wishes?
You shooting on the board, we say we run behind time.
It's up to you if you want to, go to, pass a resolution to support, the resolution that I call.
Say what? I might make a motion.
December the 29th is the last date.
All right, Joe, you're making a motion to support the resolution to send to the legislature.
So,
Supporting public schools. Any other discussion?
Before I say no, let me say why. Okay? I'm not against saying we don't want to play with public schools. I don't know that the resolution said what we want to say, so that's where I was. I'm not sure, does that resolution just say we don't want to go to public school? Or just say we don't want to go anywhere?
it says we don't want.
I know it says a lot,
We don't want,
3 pages worth.
yeah, the whereas, it's in the whereas, but it basically says we don't want to use public tax dollars to go to private schools, and to also, it covers public.
And see, and I had an issue saying, well, we don't want to do that when the Constitution don't already allow it.
Well, for instance, they're already allowing, I assume this is what y'all mentioned, you can make a donation to your private school and have half of your real estate taxes forgiven by the state, basically. They're not taking state funds, they're not taking funds the state has received and giving them to the private, schools. They're letting you give the money to the private school instead of giving it to the state.
But not just a private school, any of those charities that come under that category.
It's gotta be it has to be an educational system. Because if we looked at doing it for the KFE, it won't work. We're a 401c3. And you can't give it to your public school either. So that is a workaround that they've come up with. Another option that they're gonna, if they see that the Constitution is an actual problem for them, and I think we're probably seeing this in the national scale too, but there's workarounds, you know, they talk about giving, tax credits for whatever your private school tuition was. Well, that's not giving state funds to the private school, but it is allowing you to pay the less money in tax to the state because you gave it to a private school. So, I mean,
But I thought they'd already been doing that. The state was already giving private schools money.
They did allow the private schools to receive $10 million in 2024 through the, PPP stuff.
Sure
I can't
did.
remember the exact details. It went to the Supreme Court in Mississippi. The
Right.
Supreme Court refused to hear the case, and so the money did go to all the private schools.
It did.
and we
For the
file those
citizens.
forms in the tax office when somebody donates half of their taxes to a private school. We file the form, submit it to the state, and they get credit for the other half of their taxes.
So that mechanism is already intact. So if somebody is a property tax paying person in Kosciusko, and they want half of their state income taxes to go to PDS here, they can so designate that up until the money runs out. And I think this year it was 11 million, or maybe 18 million for the whole thing, but that included like blind and deaf and disabled, nonprofits. So some of that money goes to them, and the other money goes to private schools, church-related schools, and when the money runs out, it runs out. But there is a mechanism for people in this community to designate their state tax dollars to the private school.
Does that take any money away from the community?
No.
No, the state writes us a check, the state will write the county a check for the half of the money that they gave to the school.
That comes out of the general, fund of the state.
State farm?
Yeah.
So they're not giving it to the school, but, you know.
To me, I wish there was a mechanism for us to designate for our kids, so that, because we're in need help with our facilities in a major way.
All right, we need to go ahead and just move on. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of signing a resolution to go to the state legislature in support of the public school, say aye. Those opposed?
Vote.
All right, motion carries. All right, so we'll look at that resolution and maybe something we'll figure into that budget.
We appreciate your attention to this and happy to, we have continued discussions. I think as we go along, we're gonna learn a lot more, but I think this will be a good, signal to the legislature. Thank you. I think that on behalf of the children in this community, thank you.
All right, next,
Before you get out, I missed the whole deal with that table to the next board meeting.
there's no action.
So we're gonna come back. Then if that died, what I do is you get, I have people go down there and do it. Then bring it back up, then I bring it over.
All right, next on the agenda, Mr. Ronald Lawson,